Now, we are now live recording. Welcome everybody to tonight's Beauty Business Reset Special Edition. We are on tonight on a Tuesday night, not like normal on a Monday night. So we're going to do tonight as the special edition, and we'll be back on for our regular schedule tomorrow evening. But again, welcome everybody to tonight's Beauty Business Reset, which we are going to be talking about front desk operations and just making your front desk what it is, the pilot center of your salon. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Steve Gomez and Andrew Finkelstein to get things rolling.
Thank you, sir. Proud to get this started with you, Andrew.
That's for sure. Well, I'm honored to be here and to be with all of you guys and everyone out there. And it's just, the front desk holds a special place in my heart because that's where I started in this business. I may have shared the story that I was kind of first job thrown in behind the front desk, and it was a large front desk, and it was pre-computerization. Although we know that there are many salons out there that still aren't automated, but we had these huge books. There were 50 hairdressers in this particular salon, and we must have done, I don't know, it had to be like 1,000 transactions a week. So it was wild. It was busy, and the training I experienced at the time was little to nothing. Okay, I was literally thrown in, and the point here is that today, none of us can have a front desk like me, who was just thrown in there and, monkey see, monkey do. We really have to have a front line, particularly now, that is knowledgeable, that is empowered, that has the right mindset, the right approach to being as an integral part of the overall success of the salon. And that front desk is really a leadership position along with you, the owner. Critical. Let's look at it this way. If you're the pilot of this airline, they're your co-pilot. That's how we have to look at it. They are your co-pilot.
I love that, Andrew. And last week, I think I was on last Wednesday, and I'd had a coaching call that morning, and it was the third time that I had engaged an owner that was dealing with their front desk team struggling with the reopen. Literally struggling to the point where in one salon, one of the front desk girls quit, and another that morning, the one I was on the call with, her front desk team member ran outside in tears because of the amount of pressure that they were facing with all of the new guidelines. And, in being present to that, when I was on live that night with you guys here, I had asked if we had done something like this, and we hadn't. So here we are. And it's so funny because Derek and I talked the next morning, and wouldn't you know it, Derek, that first coaching call you had, same thing happened. A girl ran out in tears because she was frustrated. So, not only is this a conversation that is always relevant, pre-COVID, no COVID, after COVID, but it's certainly a conversation that is relevant to where we are right now. Because I do agree with you, Andrew, not only are they your co-pilot, they work in a position that a lot of times is forgotten, that is, they are often underutilized. They're certainly unappreciated. They are expected to do things perfectly. If they make mistakes, they get the wrath typically of their service providers and team members. And, at the genesis of a well-oiled front desk team, and certainly a proficient and effective and empowered front desk associate, is the salon and spa owner and manager who has the systems, structure, training, and development for that position. And it all starts with how we recruit them and who we're looking for. And Nikki and I are going to kind of freestyle that in a little while. But really, as it pertains to where we are right now today, I'm just going to echo and add to what Andrew said. And I'm sure, Andrew, you're probably going to add to what I'm about to say right now. But it's not what your front desk team is going to be doing when we reopen. That's as important as who they are being while they are doing it. So the first conversation that you need to have with your front desk team is to get them focused on who they are being. So being means it's the energy behind what they're doing. It's where they're coming from. It's what you feel from them. Do you feel confidence? Do you feel that they're inspired? Are they focused? Are they confident in what they're about? What's the energy that they bring? It's mindset. What's their perspective of where they're at? Are they being patient with what is being thrown at them? That's beingness. And where beingness can be elevated is if you prepare them as much as possible. One of the things that my client, Kara, noticed and realized was, hey, we didn't spend any time ensuring, and this is going to sound so simple, it's crazy, but they didn't spend any time ensuring that their front desk had some prep time before opening to reacquaint themselves with the software. It sounds simple. You think people remember everything from memory, but what she was noticing was under the pressure of dealing with all the new guidelines that needed to be memorized, because they didn't take the time to just say, okay, check me, let's do a walkthrough, let's do a test run, check me in, okay, close out the service, okay, I'm going to call, and I'm pretending I'm calling, book the appointment, what are the steps? Because they didn't just go through those basics. What they found was some of those things were being forgotten. And then when they opened with the assumption that everybody would remember all of that, and so a lot of them were forgetting some of those steps, it was creating additional pressure that then took them off of their game and decreased the confidence. So in your preparation to reopen, ensure that you're walking everybody, not just your front desk team, but anybody who is in the business that might have to fill in and jump in, that you're making sure that everybody remembers the basics. And that's one thing down that you don't have to worry about. And then it leads to a more powerful beingness. But really, having that conversation with your front desk team about what their mindset is, what's their mental approach, how are they relating to what is going on? Questions, questions, questions. So I'll say some of those questions again so you guys can write this down. Since this is being recorded, you can listen to it again, but I'll say it again if your learning gig is to write. Don't assume that their mental place and their state of being is where you need it to be. Check in and engage it. Hey, where are you at? How are you feeling about what we're about to do as we reopen? Where do you feel comfortable and confident, and where do you not? Where do you feel comfortable and confident, and where do you not? Do you feel and can you quote the new health and sanitation standards? Can you give them to me? You can. Great. You're right on. You missed a few. Let's work through them. How does that feel? Are you nervous about this? What are some things that you feel we haven't touched on or spent enough time with that we can help you with? Do you feel comfortable if a client doesn't have the right temperature, or if they're refusing to wear a mask, refusing service? How do you feel that you are prepared to handle that situation up there? These are the questions that are going to have you, by listening to their answers, engage their state of beingness. Andrew, what do you got to add to that, my brother?
I can add that, going back to what you started with the beingness, and you started with energy. And
Yep.
Energy is everything, folks. And it's really important, not just mental energy, physical energy. And from what I understand, and I haven't been there, the wearing of masks, if we have to, impacts your airflow. It impacts your energy. So we have to make sure that people are hydrating themselves, literally, that they're doing their best to get sleep. I mean, this sounds really basic stuff, but they have to show up being their best selves. They have to be physically fit as best they can be, given the circumstances. Low energy affects your levels of joy. It affects your levels of happiness. It affects your level of confidence. It affects your levels of influence. All these things that the front desk have to show up as being. It goes well beyond just the technical execution of booking an appointment or saying, pre-booking. So please do your best to coach and make sure these folks understand about their energy, because it's really very draining. The job itself is draining.
Absolutely. And, I think another important step that salon owners that are listening to this can do is to also get the rest of the team engaged in how important the front desk team actually is, and getting them to vocalize to the owner back, like, yes, this is why our front desk team is so important. And in those walkthrough meetings before you open, or if you're already open and you've been facing and seeing a front desk team under immense pressure, getting the rest of the team to pat them on the back, getting the rest of the team to tell them how important they are, is a much needed boost and shot in the arm. A little acknowledgement goes a long way, and it has to start with the owner, and it has to come from everybody. Everybody's got a role to play, and everybody's going to be so focused and wanting to do it perfectly, like we always do in our industry. We subconsciously strive for perfection because, there's no wiggle room to mess up that haircut or that color. So we expect everything else to go perfectly too. And when there's human error outside of ourselves, well, hellfire and damnation rains down usually, right? Because it impacts the guest, and it creates inconvenience for them and us. It makes us look bad. So everybody on the team needs to be aware of the tremendous strain, additional pressure that the front desk is going to be under, and they have to go out of their way to appreciate them, acknowledge them for the smallest thing they did right, look for what they did right, and change behaviorally as a culture, meaning instead of picking apart what we don't like or any of the breakdowns, starting with the whale done strategy. I don't know if any of you have read that book, Whale Done. It's about a 105-page read. It's an awesome story about how when the orcas, the killer whales, used to be at SeaWorld, how they would train them. And when they would make mistakes, they wouldn't chastise the killer whale. You don't want to piss that thing off. But they would immediately have it do a very simple exercise and then praise it, and then immediately have it do the one it made the mistake on. And typically they do it correct. So the whole premise of the book is, if you focus on the positive and you engage what's being done correctly, that psychologically opens up somebody to then be receptive and listen for areas that they can improve. Practicing that whale done strategy with your front desk support team can make a big impact. Andrew, any closing thoughts on this before we shift to the next segment, or anybody else want to add any thoughts to that? Yeah?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Awesome. Eric, anything to add before we pivot and talk about health and sanitation?
Yeah, well, so a couple points I think you touched on. Number one is the front desk team, right? And we had this conversation. For tonight's purposes, we're going to call it the front desk, but I want everybody on the call to rethink their language, okay? Because it's not the front desk. It is concierge. It is your guest services team. It is something like that. The verbiage you use with those employees is who they're going to be. If you just call them a front desk person, guess what? They're going to be just a front desk person. And this is what you guys were just talking about with the being. Who are they? Who are they? They can be so much more. And they, in actuality, they are so much more than a front desk person. They're the control center of your salon. They control your timing. They control your money. They control some of the most important things in your salon. So keep that in mind when you are talking to them, and use the right verbiage. Make them feel bigger, better than other people might address them as a front desk person. And that's just a matter of how you speak to them, right? Are they a front desk person? Or are they a concierge? Or are they your guest services team? I prefer guest services team. But you call it whatever you want, but please don't call it front desk. We're using that for tonight's lesson, not to identify the people, but where it's being done. Okay, so I wanted everybody to know that with the whole being. I think that's an important lesson in the way you treat people, is your language and how you speak to them. So I think that's really important.
I couldn't agree more with you, Derek. And, everyone, if you're not open yet, you still have the opportunity to get out in front of training that front desk team on all the standards and guidelines that they're going to need to implement. And that's going to begin with health and sanitation, because that's a lot of the new things that are going to be added into everybody's world are the health and sanitation guidelines, steps, and measures. So getting that front desk team, getting that guest service team, that concierge team, you see me changing my language on the fly there, Derek, getting that team to really focus in on the information they need to know is very critical. And they have to be the example, because they are the first and last touch point each guest is going to have in the salon experience. So they have to be the gold standard of following the system. And we recommend that you coach your team that if the front desk is holding, if the guest service team is holding them accountable to a missed step, you should be, as an owner, giving your guest service team up front full longitude and latitude to hold everybody accountable if they're missing a step, especially a new step that with regard to health and sanitation practices. They should be given the opportunity to lead and to remind people. And this isn't to make them puff their chest out and I'm in a role of leadership now, but this is just to acknowledge that we need them to be present about what's going on, because it's going to be very easy for a stylist or a technician to get blinders on once they're into that first guest. Have to service that guest, then we have to sanitize, then we have to get ready for the next guest. And it can be very easy to get the blinders on and they're just in their day and steps might be missed. So it's up to that team up front to be that last stopgap to make sure that all measures are followed and that they're given the opportunity to hold everyone to account to ensure that they are. And you would think that everybody's coming back committed, but as we know, human nature, that's not the case. I've had over a dozen instances to date in coaching businesses that have been open where team members were not following, whether they're just being forgetful or whether they're just being defiant because they didn't believe in it. There's only 2 of those instances so far, but typically it's just because people are being forgetful or getting into rush mode and letting old habits take over. To give that support team up front the opportunity to lead and to police it and make sure that everybody gets that they can.
So Steve, with that, I have to say, anybody that thinks that guest services isn't important, I got news for you. They can crush any stylist in the salon that gives them an attitude. They control the book. They control the money, okay? They could book 15-minute, half-hour gaps all over between your book if you as an owner are not keeping them accountable, right? So if a stylist gets snippy with them, they can really do damage on the book. So you as an owner have to keep them accountable and they will keep your stylists accountable. Believe me, if you get a good guest services team, they will keep your employees accountable. So there is a lot of power and responsibility that goes along with that position.
Amen.
Yeah, the job title too makes a big difference because people are conditioned, people that color their hair have been going to salons for a long time, right? So like the girl at the front desk type of thing, or, unfortunately most salons that's a starter position, right? So now salons are changing and that's more of a power position. It's sort of the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain for a lot of salons. So by changing that job title, sometimes it gives them a little more power and also changes it for the client's perception as well. So it works out both ways.
So what we 100%, what we called them is our guest services team, and the actual position was called salon coordinator. And why is it salon coordinator? Because they coordinate every freaking thing in the salon, right? They really do. They're the operations center. They're like an air traffic controller. Things crash when they don't do their job right. So I think it's important to bring them up to the status. Now, of course, like James said, it is in most cases an entry-level position, but you want to build it to more than an entry-level position. You want to build it to a position that they can actually make you money and not cost you money. And I'll go into that during my spiel. But Steve,
Awesome.
I'm going to let you jump in because I know we wanted
Yep.
to talk about sanitation before I go into technology.
Yep. I'm just going to answer Rebecca Stover's question. How are you guys setting up schedules to rebook down the road? Is everyone keeping 2 teams indefinitely? I would agree that you would have to do that until the guidelines those restrictions are lessened. You just have to keep moving. This is a very fluid thing. So I would just keep moving in that direction until you know that we're hearing from the CDC and from local officials that we can relax some of these guidelines and we can relax social distancing inside the salon. So up until that point, that's what I would do. Thanks for the question, Rebecca. I'm going to be brief about health and sanitation because I know we've been talking about this a lot throughout these last few months. I'm going to remind everybody, you can go to the Statements Project and you can pull Nikki and Iva's information on health and sanitation. And that's www.statementsproject.com. Can you guys nod a yes for me that I nailed that? Is that where the info is?
The Statements Project.
TheStatementsProject.com.
TheStatementsProject.com. Thank you, Iva. You can also go to my website, www.stephengomez.net, STEPHENGOMEZ.net, and click on the Operation Clean Slate landing page. I have 20 templates that you can download at no cost, and there's a myriad of health and sanitation steps that you can download at no cost. Here's the thing about those guidelines. We've given you, between the 3 of us, a ton of resources to focus on your health and sanitation standards and guidelines. I actually wrote a test that is a 12-test template. You can add questions into it. It's multiple choice, true and false, fill in the blank. Utilize that information and make sure that every person that's working in that guest service position is studying all the health and sanitation guidelines and standards and taking that test and passing it 100%. That has to happen. And I would even say that have them maybe be somebody that takes over administering the test to the rest of the team. Again, it gets them involved other than just day one, we're open, welcome back. We hope you can check people in and close out the service right. Get them engaged in the weeks leading up by having them focus on and delegating to them to do some of that work. Those standards have to be adhered to. And again, they are the first example. So if you put them in a role where they have autonomy and where they know they're being counted on by you to facilitate the standards and guidelines being met by everyone else in the company, then that definitely will have them become an expert. And you'll also be able to watch how they're communicating, where they're strong and where there are areas of opportunity for them to improve and how they're leading internally. That level of development will only make them lead externally that much better when you reopen the doors. So get them involved and give them that part of the business to take on. So they're not sitting around waiting to be told what to do. They're being trained, they're passing a test, and then they're given a carrot, and it's a golden carrot that they get to go chew on so that they come back once you're open, living into that beingness that Andrew and I were just talking about. They're already in a leadership mindset. You know, and if you think about that concierge position, we talked about this last week. Concierge is somebody, if you've ever stayed at a resort or been to Vegas and you've been to any hotel and you go to the concierge desk, they know everything about everything. They can get answers to any questions and they can do it quickly. It's like they have the inside scoop on the best tickets, the inside scoop on where to go eat dinner. That is who you want your team up front to be. You want them to be that person that can answer all of the questions and do it confidently. Literally, as an owner, you want a mini-me. You want somebody who's going to be you answering those questions up there, so it frees you up to focus and be accessible for everything else. But again, from a health and sanitation standpoint, once you know what your state is recommending that you do and you implement those guidelines, get them out on the front line with you, learning them, knowing them, and leading the rest of the team and the community. Let them be that health and sanitation leader. I'm going to circle back around with Nikki momentarily, and we're going to talk about job descriptions and their importance. And we both have some very important information to share there that is going to have me reference back to what we just said. But for now, we're going to kick it over to you, Derek, and we're going to talk about technology and the ability for them to be efficient in what they're doing, because when they're really mastering the use of that technology, they're doing things faster and more easily, which is going to be that much more critical as we reopen. My man, Derek.
So I'm going to go through my stuff pretty quickly because I've got about 2 hours of training that I'm going to condense into about 20 minutes. Okay, so everybody bear
I just
with
grabbed
me.
my drink.
I am going to do a couple of screen shares here. We're going to go inside of technology and outside of technology because it's all conducive to the position of guest services and your concierge services up at the front of house, as they call it over in the UK, right, Andrew? Isn't that what they call it?
Correct.
Exactly. So with that in mind, I'm going to share my screen. So everybody, bear with me. Now these are going back to some stuff I've wrote a long time ago, but it's been updated many times over that for courses I've done. So just bear. And by the way, everybody, we are on Facebook Live. I was able to share it on my personal wall and then share it in a group. So we are back up on Facebook Live, but not the normal way. It's a watch party in the group, just so everybody knows. So some of this may go into what Steve and Nikki are going to talk about in a minute. I'm going to go through it quickly. So this is a thing I wrote, and I'm going to share all these with everybody in the group after the fact. We're going to have a whole binder for everybody that watches this show. So 15 minutes to money, tips for your guest services team. Okay, so most important lesson I can teach you here tonight is we don't sell services, we sell time. What does that mean? Well, think about it, guys. If we are booking in time frames, we are selling time. We are not selling the services. We're selling how much time it takes to do those services. So with that in mind, I want you to know that 15 minutes can kill you or make you, okay? So I look at a lot of coaches. I coach a lot of salons that I go into, and I look at their schedules, and I see 15-minute gaps everywhere. Right now, we're going to have 15-minute, and it's got to be structured, and it's got to be perfect, right, because of COVID. It's to clean up. But do not let your stylists or your customers dictate those 15 minutes gaps. It's so important. I can't even begin to tell you. Again, I'm going to breeze through this as to why. I don't want to get into it too much. You can read this after the fact. But 15-minute gaps add up to tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars of lost revenue. And you'll see in here, right? 1 lost hour per day, 6 days a week equals 6 salon hours per week, right? 312 hours. You can look at the money. If you're doing $100 in turnover, which is 4 15-minute gaps, right? This is what it's going to cost you a year. $31,200 per stylist in 15-minute lost gaps. Think about that a second. You do that over 10 stylists, guess what? That's $310,000, okay? So with technology, we have to keep in mind when we go on to our book, okay? And we're going to go on there. One of the most important things for your guest services team to do when they get in first thing in the morning is manage the gaps. Managing the gaps is crucial. They're going to go, if they see these gaps and they're 45 half hour instead of 15 minutes like COVID, right? We're going to back it up. We're going to call that client and say, hey, can you come in 15 minutes early? And by the end of the day, we're going to open up a gap of an hour on each stylist, maybe 2 hours, right? And by doing that, we're now putting more people in, more time, we're being more efficient, and we're minding our time management. It's so important with technology. I can't even begin to tell everybody. And again, I'm going to go through these. These are all in writing. I'm going to get them out to you, okay? And it tells you how to get rid of those gaps. Don't let your stylist say, you know what, I'm tired. I need catch-up time, whatever. I'm sorry. You're in it to be a winner, okay? I'll give you a gap if you need touch-up time or something where your colors are getting backed up, I can squeeze a 15-minute gap, but don't do it in the schedule. Do it after the fact. Don't build it in because of a stylist or somebody else saying that's what I want. Your job is to be efficient when booking the front desk, and that means cluster booking, which means squeezing everybody together to be the most efficient you can be. Right now, we're already losing 15 minutes. Don't lose another 15 minutes because it's going to cost you $32,000 a year. You might not think that 15 minutes matter. I promise you, it is one of the most important lessons that the front desk can take care of is by booking efficiently and not letting the stylist dictate what they want. The only communication should be between the owner and the guest services team to set those rules, and then the stylists should not be allowed behind the desk. Okay, the guest services team is in charge. I see Iva saying absolutely there because it's so damn true. I used to tell people, if you want to go behind the front desk at the end of the day, if the draw is off, you're going to pay for it. And boy, you watch them run from sitting behind the front desk congregating, right? So with that in mind, again, part of this lesson was use your technology to catch up these 15-minute gaps. Have your front guest services team call to fill in those gaps and squeeze them and get the time management straight, right? I'm just going to browse through this because it's a mile long, right? Is your guest services team making you money? Okay. The trick is to recruit the right person, understand how they're going to make you revenue, so on and so forth. So read this article. It's super duper important. Most people think that guest services does not make you money. I got news for you. They can make or break your business. It's as simple as that because they can squeeze those times in. They can sell more product. They can get the rebookings. All the things that you want done is in control of your front guest services team, your front of house, as they call it. Okay. Super duper important. Here's how to make it pay for itself, right?
Derek, you mind if I add something to what you just said?
Yeah. Jump in anytime you want.
You should also consider that God, you got me having some fun with the words front desk now, Derek. Thanks.
Right.
Your guest service team should be trained to add on relevant services right over the phone when they're scheduling appointments with people. They should be that well versed in being able to look back at client purchasing patterns and to be making relevant recommendations. If it's related to what we're coming back from now, it's going to make it a lot easier to train them in this way because there's going to be certain treatments and certain products that beyond a shadow of a doubt that pretty much all your clients are going to need. Now, if clients are getting color, they're going to need different treatments and different types of products. But if you break it down into what are general products and additional add-on services that should be recommended to people, here's that list. And if there's additional services and products for color or chemically treated clients, then these are the additional add-ons that you can recommend when somebody's calling to book those appointments. That way, those additional add-ons are happening right then on the phone. It's also going to be a time saver because you don't want somebody to get in the trap of not being able to make a relevant recommendation to somebody because there's not enough time on the schedule, and with social distancing and we don't have capacity and no double booking and maybe lack of assistance, we just can't add that on. So having your guest service team up front be able to actually play that part and literally incentivizing them for the amount that they do, and maybe there's a financial carrot you dangle in front of them for that. Not only can they make more needed cash flow for themselves, but they can drive cash flow right at the point of recommending or right at the point of getting that appointment booked. Thanks, Derek.
No, dead on. It's all trackable from your standpoint as an owner. You can easily track what your guest services team does. Super duper easy to do. And here's their jobs: get new clients, nail the rebookings, double the retail sales. Very simple goals to set for your guest services team. Okay, how do we do that? Okay, you heard it 1,000 times. Like I said right here, they make the first impression. They head up your sales and marketing. So get it wrong here and you probably lose the sale. So today's team members, and now we're going to dive into the technology. They must use all their downtime to be your marketing machine, okay? They must be able to master technology so they drive traffic to your salon. Let's look at the different areas of technology that they have to learn how to use, okay? They have to know your point of service software, what Steve said earlier. A lot of them they forgot how to use your point of service system after being off for 2 months, right? I mean, funny story is I actually have one of my coaching clients go, and she owns a salon. She goes, I'm worried about going back. I think I might have forgotten how to do hair. Now, she probably didn't. That's just a nervous factor, right? But in reality, think about it. We haven't touched a head for 2 months in some cases. So in this case, they haven't touched your computer in 2 months and done a booking of an appointment, things like that. You got to get them in. You got to practice how to use your technology. It's as important as the rest of the salon practicing their procedures on sanitization and taking care of clients and those things, right? So your point of service system, whatever it is, Millennium, Booker, Rosie, who we recommend, things like that. You gotta get them in the system. You got to get their hands dirty with it. Next thing, social media. At a minimum, they must be trained at posting and running a selfie system. So that means posting on social media and running a selfie system. And that's a whole class in itself, a selfie system. There's a procedure to it besides just having a camera somewhere. You should be giving a gift for that client to give you a picture, right? They put their name in a fishbowl and boom, now they have a picture, you post it to social media. That should be a regular routine. Email and text marketing. They must be able to create, monitor, and track the return, typo there, return on investment on specials that you delegate, okay? Phone marketing. You have to develop scripts and client drive-back campaigns that they can market to the phone. For instance, in this gap period that Steve talked about earlier, right? We're going to be crammed when we first come in, okay? What are we doing for the next 8 weeks in between the appointments that they come back for, okay? That's when we are calling all our lost people. We're having scripts in place, how to actually drive traffic with a phone call. Human phone calls are the most important piece of technology that you can master. It's that simple. They can't see you, right? They can't see you. They can't feel you. A text message is impersonal. An email takes it up one step above that. But an actual phone call with the inflection of your voice and smiling on the phone call is so important, right? So that's technology. Remember, people may not be able to see you smile, but they can hear you smile. I know that sounds crazy, but it's the absolute truth. If you smile on a phone call, your inflection will come through on that phone call. Okay? That's technology, folks. It's all encompassing. Communicating, right? So communication. They must be able to multitask and communicate with the clients on every medium. Text messaging, email messages, phone messages, messenger messages, etc. Right? So it gets crazy at the front desk between doing the normal jobs, and I just boo-booed, Steve, I said the front desk, at our guest services team level, right? Front of house, we'll call it. But it gets absolutely crazy, and we have to have them be able to be masters at this technology so they can focus and shut out stylists who are coming up. You're booking me too tight. You're doing this, you're doing that, right? Because their job is to make the client happy. That's their one most important job, is to get the client happy, because client happiness leads to sales. Remember that, okay? The client comes first. The answer is always yes. It's not no, okay? It's yes, how can we make that happen? So with technology, that's your tools. The technology can help you get all those things accomplished, but it's not going to do it for you, right? So you have to be able to do all these different things all together, okay? So again, I'm going to say in here, all these take 5 to 6 different platforms of email marketing, text marketing, this, that, the other thing. You can condense it all down by grabbing our platform, selfish plug there. Salon Ninja does it all for you, except for your booking system. So you're welcome to get a demo of that. But I want you to know, with technology, your guest services team has to know it as well, if not better than you as the owner, because they are the one communicating with the client. And technology is communication. Sales is communication. Marketing is communication. So how are we communicating, right? We have to communicate on all those different levels that our clients are now communicating with us. I see a lot of salons right now on WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger. They're getting bombarded by that right now. So folks, if you don't have that integrated, you're missing a lot of opportunities. Okay. Again, guest services team, right? How much, what does it matter to have a guest services team? Why? Ask yourself, can you afford to employ a guest services team? Okay. So here's a simple formula. What's your average service bill? What's the number of visits per client per year you have? So on average per year, clients spend blank. How many clients do you get each month on average, new clients, right? Of these new clients, how many return for a second appointment? So the number of new clients that didn't return to your salon is blank, right? Which over 12 months is blank. Okay, whatever that number might be, if you kick it back, Steve, I'm glad you're having a fun time over there, you. If you kick it back and you think about this, I guarantee you that your lost revenues by not having somebody as your guest services person up front, a lot of salons run, oh, we're all sharing answering the phone. Big, 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 big mistake. Okay? Because what's going to happen is you're going to lose revenue that you don't even know you're losing because you're not even tracking it with your technology that's available to you. Again, I'm going to buzz right through this because I know Steve and Nikki are going to jump into this. Rock the rebooking as they leave the salon. Book like a doctor. Doctors don't ask you when you're coming in next. They say, I want to see you in 6 weeks. Think about that, right? They don't say, oh, can I see you? When do you want to come in again? Like you get from most salon owners. No, book like a doctor. The doctor wants to see you in X amount of weeks. Would you like the first half of the week or would the latter half of the week work best for you? You don't ask them a question, can you make it? Don't leave an open-ended question. If it's open, it's only when they're coming in, right? So get those things done with this rebooking now is super important. Like Steve said earlier, it's going to be more important than you know right now. So you can maintain that 6 to 8 week flow and then mark it in the gaps to keep everything going in between, okay? Give targets for your guest services, whatever you want them to sell in retail, in rebooking, things like that. Very important. Set those things inside your technology if it's available to set those goals, okay? Doesn't stop on products, and you guys are going to get into this, right? So educate your guests to upsell. Hair and beauty gift cards, memberships, promotional offers, aesthetic and beauty treatment courses. All those things. It's super duper important. Encourage your clients to give online reviews when they're checking out. Super important. Why? Because it's going to boost your Google rankings. Hey, James, you want to jump on? How many did Blue get this week when we operated the Salon Ninja system? How many reviews they get?
They got, I think they did 384 clients their first week, and they had 124 5-star reviews on Google. They had another 100 reviews on Facebook, and then they had 2 4-star reviews, which was sort of the joke, but they killed it with reviews. I mean, it was unreal.
And guys, if you don't think that's important, guess what? Google, one of Google's #1 tracking factors is with regard to giving your website a boost. It's your review ranking, and they have to be certified reviews, not fake reviews. If you're the ones that are posting on your website, I'm going to use your name. Iva just reviewed us and said we were fantastic, but it's not linked back to Google. Guess what it means? Absolutely nothing. You want certified Google and Facebook reviews because it gives you SEO traffic to your website, which means new clients come into your salon, and super important, okay? Recommend friends, another upsell, right? We're going to do the friend recommendation thing. We're going to reward your guest services team for spreading the word. All these things are really important. I'm just going to buzz through here because I'm starting to drag out, and I see Steve's having a good old time. He's drinking too much wine. Nip complaints in the bud. Don't forget, your guest services team is your front line for nipping any complaints, right? So you have to give them power to that. Something that a lot of people don't speak about because you don't want everybody saying, Karen wants to see the owner. No, Karen can deal with, right? Karen can deal with the guest services team instead of saying, I want to see the manager. All these things, I'm just trying to look through here myself because this was a long course. Some service team tips. I've got them all in here for you. Power of yes. This is going to teach you all the things that matter, right? Positivity, body language. Yes, not talking about clients, all those things. I have a full course for you here. I'm going to share it. I'm not even going to get into this anymore because it's dragging on. But
Derek,
remember,
can I ask you a question, Derek? If I'm going to get this information, how long do you think it's going to take me to learn it, memorize it, and then facilitate it? Because memorization is one thing. Facilitation is owning it and bringing my own energy to it. You know, if you think about some of the best actors in roles that you love and watch them in, I can think recently back to the Joker and that mesmerizing performance by Joaquin Phoenix. You know, he got the script, he got the systems, which is what you're offering here, and then he put himself into it and got lost in it. And we weren't watching him for those 2 hours. We were watching the Joker. So how long do you think it's going to take people to take all of this? Is a treasure trove of information you just shared that people are going to get their hands on. And your experience teaching and coaching salons to implement all of this, how long do you see that curve taking? Go from getting it, memorizing it, being it.
So here's my thought process behind it. If you can afford it and you're a busy salon, you're going to create a number one, right? That's your head salon coordinator, whoever that might be. That person has to learn all this stuff. It generally takes about a week to 2 weeks to learn the technology, to actually practice it and get it down pat. I would say 3 months. It's not an overnight story, right? To teach somebody to do it and do it well, generally about 3 months if they live it and they breathe it. But that depends on the owner or the manager being on them, training consistently, the same as we train in doing hair. I always tell salons when I'm coaching them and training them during their training process, which I recommend once a week, right? We're going to do this haircut, that haircut. Well, half of that should be on sales and technology, marketing, whatever you want to call it. And that's got to be a constant flow. Your business training has to always be there, the same as your technical training on how to cut a head. Okay. It's just as important. And it's not just important for the front desk team. It is important for the whole salon team, because there may be times when you have to pull a technician to sit in on the front desk, right? So it's important to rotate everybody. And I think rotating everybody into the guest services position is one of the most brilliant things you can do, because it teaches them what it's actually like to be up behind that computer. And most of them go, oh shit, I don't want to do this, right? Oh my God, this is crazy. But guess what? The next time they think about yelling at your guest services team or being rude to them as a stylist, they're going to think twice, because they've then been in that position. I think that super duper value is valuable is to rotate your team throughout your whole salon and have them learn all the processes.
Hey, Derek.
Yeah.
Can I just jump in 1 second? When you were talking earlier about they can hear the smile in your voice, there's an old rule about answering the phone. Let it ring 3 times. You answer on the third. The first ring, you stop what you're doing. The second ring, you smile. And the third ring, you answer. Because if it rings that first time and you reach over and grab that phone and quickly say, you know, thank you for calling Statements to Salon, this is Iva, how can I help you? Well, then they feel rushed. And they feel like you're not going to pay attention to what they're saying to you. So if it's not possible, wait for that third ring.
They're still in, when on that first ring, they're still in the last conversation that they had with the customer at the front desk, with the stylist, whatever. And you're 100% right. That's a brilliant comment to make. It's so true. Wait till that third ring, because it allows you to focus, allows you to breathe, get the smile on your face, and then answer the phone properly the way you should address a client. Because guess what? The person in front of you can be taken care of in a second. That person on the phone doesn't want to wait. Okay? So it's very important. As far as accountability, I'm going to share this with everybody. I'm not going to go through it. One of the most brilliant techniques I've had as a coach for guest services accountability is to actually hire secret shoppers. You let them get their hair done for free. You allow them to come in and shop your salon. This is the form that I created that I used to have them use. It's a long form. with all the questions, and you'll see it all. Was the phone answered, and how many times did it ring? All this great stuff. It's all in here. This was one of the most valuable things I had as an owner and a coach, to create accountability at the guest services level. So I'm going to share this with everybody. Super important.
These forms are used more often than you think. When I was in property management for years, all of the leasing consultants in the leasing office, they hired professional companies to do shopping. And that's how they got bonuses, and that's how they got raises. Because once this form was filled out, that was it. You never knew who was a shopper.
Exactly. And that's between you as the owner and the person who's doing the secret shopping. Nobody else, not even your manager. Because, well, in your case, if you work tightly with a manager, it might be different. But in a lot of cases where you have a front guest services manager, you don't want them to know that you're shopping them. And I never used to bring it up. I would just bring it up in their reviews. I wouldn't say I secret shop them. I would say, well, here's where I think we might be having issues, and I went through that. Okay, so that's another piece of technology. Shop your own employees secretly. You're going to get this form. It goes not just for the guest services team. It goes all the way through their complete visit, bathrooms, service from the stylist, consultation, everything. I think this is an unbelievably important piece of information and a tool that we're going to give out to everybody in the group tonight. I have two or three more things, and then it is all back to you, Steve.
You know,
so,
Derek, one sec, Derek.
Sure.
I'm just thinking, listening to your secret shopper, and it's very effective. And perhaps now, when we have all these new rules, regs, and now may be a great time, even before you open, to get a secret shopper and have them come in and let them do it. And you'll get
100%.
I couldn't agree with that more.
I shop no less than 1 month, every month on our site.
No, but
right
now.
I agree with you, Andrew. You know, if you are open now, do it. If you're not open yet, have when you're doing the test run, maybe have somebody come in and really be a client, going through what you're going through the systems, and then have them share immediate feedback. It's not a bad idea. I mean, any idea at this point that is going to have us button up how we serve guests makes a lot of sense to me.
Something else you might try too, if you implement these secret shoppers, is the person that they shopped. For instance, this one specific person at the front desk, there could be some kind of bonus attached to that. You know, if they get this perfect score or up to a certain percentage or a certain point, then there's a $50 gift card for them. There's a $50 Visa card. I guarantee you, one person at that front desk gets a $50 gift card for doing what the hell they're supposed to do. Everybody up there is going to look at the next person like they're a shopper because they want a $50 gift card.
So our KPIs and our criteria for guest services was tied to that form. And that was part of their bonus system. Remember, we have to reward them. We can't just pay them hourly and not reward them for doing above and beyond things. Because if we just treat them in a position of front desk, they're answering a phone call, they're booking, right? That's a minimum wage employee. Okay, I'm sorry, that's what it is. If they are treated as concierge or guest services or whatever you want to call it, and they are encompassing all these duties and we are tracking these duties, we can easily track how much money they are generating to the salon. And that is through these KPIs, that's something that if you're not given a bonus, then guess what? I'm just going to say, I would rather give that guest services position a bonus than a stylist, okay? Because they control more of your money flow than a stylist.
Well, unfortunately, I think the stylists forget that.
Well, and it's perfect that
that's why we rotate them, right, Iva? They used to run like mice, right? Or cockroaches when the lights came on, when you said, okay, guys, guess what? we're doing a rotation this month, and you're going to do one day on the guest services team, they would be like, oh my God, I can't work the computer. I can't. Oh, well, guess what? You're doing it. Because that's how I operate as an owner, and that's how everybody should operate as an owner. Everybody should share duties. There's no I, it's a team, and a team knows how to always function in the other's duties, right? When we're in the military, if we're out in the field and somebody gets shot, somebody else has to be able to fill in that duty immediately. So everybody is cross-trained. It's no different in a salon or spa. Everybody must be cross-trained, whether they like it or not, and it's got to be a regular thing.
And I think the front desk takes the most abuse from stylists.
No, there's no doubt about it. And in fact, to agree with what you're saying, Michelle has put two great questions into the Q&A on Zoom that I have up here. First one is, which is very relevant to this conversation, some of my service staff has an unintentional hierarchy over my younger desk staff. Setting boundaries is important, but how do I really help them understand they, and I'm assuming that Michelle means her desk staff, have all the powers when I'm not there? Well, I'll say, Michelle, and to kind of echo what Iva just said, based on how service providers can treat the staff, have the conversation and bring it into consciousness. And I would have it in a one-on-one way when you're checking in with your staff, pre-opening, if you're already opening, checking in and reminding people of what the expectation is. And it's a two-sided thing. You have to let the guest service team know, hey, don't let this go to your head, but you're going to be the eyes and ears of following standards and guidelines when I'm not in the building. This doesn't mean that you're cracking a whip and that you're now dictatorial. You are there to hold people accountable, and accountability doesn't have to be righteous. It doesn't have to be finger pointing. It doesn't have to be excuse making. It just has to be reminding people of what the standard is and alerting us, the leaders, if people aren't following the standards. We will also, in no uncertain terms, remind the team that in these new waters that we're traversing, it is incumbent upon them to trust and respect the leadership and the work and support that the team up front is putting in, and that we are asking them to be the eyes and the ears because we need you 100% focused on serving the guest. So everybody's got a role to play, and it's important that you play yours and you let them play theirs. And if they're pointing something out or reminding you of something, it's not because they're trying to control you or be a boss over anything. It's because they're serving the guest's best interests, your best interests, and all of our best interests in that order. And I think that has to be the dialogue. It's got to be up front. It's got to be honest. And what you're going to do there is you're not going to eliminate or lessen all of it happening in the culture, but you're certainly going to cut into a good chunk of it. And you're going to empower that service part of your organization that way. I have thoughts on that.
I think one of the main things is that no matter what your position is, everyone needs to learn to respect each other. It doesn't matter if you're working as guest services. It doesn't matter if you're a stylist. It doesn't matter if you're the owner. Who gives a shit how much you're making, how much you're being paid, whether it's commission or hourly? We're all a team. We all work together. You need to respect me just like I respect you. And when you're at that front desk, that's a lot of responsibility. It's a responsibility.
I couldn't agree with you more.
It's the most responsibility out of the whole salon.
Exactly. And, especially now, stylists, there's no room for you to hang out at the front desk. There's no room. There's not even 6 feet between 2 people at that front desk. And you certainly don't need 3 and 4 people back there just hanging out, wanting to chat. First of all, there's too much going on. There's too many new protocols that we have to follow. There's no time for that. But they also need to learn, especially now, as busy as they're going to be up there with people coming in, not wanting to wear masks or asking 100 questions. How are you all doing? What's your new protocols? They don't have time. They don't have time to handle that disrespect from you, or to handle you barking orders at them, or, you know, I'm busy, go outside and get my client, or how about asking nicely? It's just respect.
So
Amen to that.
And Steve, couldn't be more on point. So I think this combines both of your conversations. I think it's important before we reopen to sit the staff down, have an open dialogue and open communication as to why our guest services team is so important. And if they don't believe it, then you can tell them very simply, they control your book. And guess what? They also control who gets the new clients. You want to be fresh to them? I can promise you, you're not going to get the new clients, right? So that, you know, I mean, they're really a smart guest services person can literally wreck a stylist if they want to. Not that we want to let them know that, but we want to let them know that in a roundabout way, that they're important. They are one of the most crucial pieces in the link, right, of a team. And I can't even begin to tell you how important it is. And I know that any of you that have run a bigger salon, it just becomes that much more magnified because you might have 4 or 5 guest services people, right? And then you might even have a guest services manager who oversees all of them. I mean, it becomes a body in itself, and the smarter stylists know to treat them properly because guess what? They make more money by treating them properly.
Right.
And you know, Derek, here's where the rubber really meets the road. Pre-COVID, did we have time to deal with this crap? And the he said, she said, and the emotional immaturity? No, we didn't. Post-COVID, we have any room for that? We have even, it's not even 0 room. We're like negative $1 million room for it. So if
you're right,
people, it's so true. If people are not willing to get humble and to understand that it's not about you being here 20 years and that person that's working up front has only been here 3 or 4 and they don't know what you go through. That's diva, that's ego, and there's no room. Figure your shit out, put the F between the I and the T, and shift the shit. Because if you don't do that, then you're detrimental to this operation and you're taking away from the fabric of what we have to be doing, because there's so many other things that we must be focused on than ever before. So this conversation should be had with each team member so that they get in that level of eloquence that this is how it's going to roll. Now, if you're an owner that you tend to shy away, it's your natural inclination to shy away from those types of dialogues, read a book called Crucial Conversations, Tools for Talking When the Stakes Are High. It is an awesome read. It's a deep read. It's a quick read. The chapters aren't long, but they make you think and they make you do some work. Learning how to coach and guide and hold people accountable is a lifelong endeavor. There's not one coach that's on here tonight. There's not one coach like a Jay Williams or any of us that have been on before us tonight that will tell you we have it all nailed. We don't. Why? Because we're dealing with psychology and humanity. It's messy and it's imperfect, and it's what makes life so damn beautiful. But at the end of the day, if we're not working towards learning how to communicate and convey all these systems, then all this stuff we're teaching you doesn't matter for shit, you guys.
Right.
Unless we learn how to communicate and hold people accountable and do it in a way that's dignified, do it in a way that has respect.
Well, I think one
100%.
of the worst things, one of the worst attitudes a stylist could have is that, look, you're hourly. I'm bringing in the money to pay your hourly.
Well, to that point, I'm going to, I've been listening a lot and kind of hearing, I know everyone seems to have challenges with getting the desk to stylists to treat the desk correctly. And I'm hearing all of this, but I think what the COVID pandemic did was I think it put a glaring spotlight on the fact that I think that we all as salon owners allowed our top tier stylists or our producers a little bit too much room. Mm-hmm. And I think that line was pushed constantly. It's like this negotiation that we do with owners and stylists all the time, our revenue producers, because they push us and then we back up because we allow the line to bend and to move, and we can't allow the line to move. The line has to stand where it stands because it represents your brand, and it represents your vision, and it represents what you need as a business owner in order to care for the entire team. So I think that the glaring spotlight has been made very clear up to this point with the unemployment issues, with the top tier stylists leaving, with them literally tormenting us. I mean, as employers, and I don't want this to get negative. I'm very positive about all the good things that are going to come out of this. But what I hope that it taught us as business owners is that we need to draw the line, and then we need to hold the line, and we need to not allow that line to bend and flow. And we allow, unfortunately, I think a lot of salon owners allow the abuse of the front desk from the stylist, because it happens a little bit, and then it happens a little bit more, and then it happens a little bit more, and then we continue to allow it, and then the more we allow, the more it happens. And that's just how it is. So you're just going to have to get hard about what you allow and what you don't allow. And I mean, we can talk all night long about this topic, but at the end of the day, you are going to have to make a decision about where that line is going to be, and you're going to hold that line. And whatever that line is, we can pre-design and teach you everything, just like they said, not to repeat what everyone just said so beautifully, but we're going to all have to make that decision, and we're going to have to just stand there, and we're just going to have to make it very clear that this is exactly what we expect, rather we lose them or we're not. Because the first thing salon owners say to us as coaches, well, what if I lose them? Right. Okay. I think it's very clear that we can lose them. Like, we're a banana peel away from losing anybody at this point. So it doesn't really matter anyway. So we have to be okay with losing people sometimes, which means that if you're a business owner that isn't having constant new traffic of new employees coming in, you're going to have to start that traffic ASAP, because the problem is if you prima donna them, you prep them to be prima donnas, you're going to allow that behavior. I am all about treating our amazing revenue producers in the most amazing way possible and giving our hearts and souls to them, but they are not allowed to push the line back. That's all.
Well, what they forget is they're top producers, because those guest services are booking them accordingly.
So it goes together. You are the owners. You're gonna have to stand up tall, and you're gonna have to make that decision to be the owner, and you're gonna have to say, this is the line, don't do that again. It's not allowed.
Correct.
Nikki, I think.
And if you think about it as well, it's sorry, Andrew, I'll be quick. At the end of the day, now, there should be no seniority in anything. We all should be coming back unified as one, and specific people should be playing specific roles. Think about a football team. You think about the team on offense. You got 11 players on the field, and that quarterback is kind of a glorified position. Everybody kind of, watches that quarterback, but he's playing a role. And it's one of the most visualized roles and one of the most important ones, but everybody else is playing a role. So everybody has to know their role, and everybody has to play it, and everybody has to get how important that role is. And a lot of times, because we don't have clear descriptions and delineation in who's doing what by when, and who is empowered to lead in these specific ways, then that leads to this level of confusion. It leads to the emotion and the egoistic responses. I think that's maybe a good segue for Nikki and I to jump into that conversation. But Andrew, we both spoke at the same time. So
there are three C's. Most important, clarity. We all need to know what we have to do. That's number one. We need courage. We need courage within ourselves to do it, and that has to do with the confidence that we've developed that we can do it. And the confidence comes, again, it's an inner thing. And all those things that Nikki and Eva were saying, so true. So true, but it starts with what you just said, Steve, the clarity, the courage, and then the confidence that comes behind it. So,
amen.
And we can develop all those things. We can develop all
beautifully said, Andrew.
So I'm going to pass it off to you guys in a second. I guess Iva and Steve, Nikki and Steve, I think you were up next. Right, so keep the show rolling here. I just wanted you guys to know I'm going to send over this. I know we're going to have some scripts. This is my sales script for the front desk. Has all the how you answer phone calls, everything. I'm not going to go through it. I'll share that with everybody as part of the group thing. I think we all have some scripts on how to handle phone calls, sales calls, and adversity phone calls, we'll call them, right? A client that's not happy. And that's important for your guest services team to know. Okay.
Whatever your scripts are or my scripts are, but you guys need to take all the scripts you can and create your own scripts.
Amen.
Yeah, exactly. It's like watching a haircutting class, right? So you never want to do it exactly the same unless you're watching Philip. But if you're not watching Philip, then you want to take the best pieces of what you're watching and make it part of your repertoire. And that's the same thing with developing your own scripts, your own processes, things like that. So with that, guys, I'm going to stop my screen share, and it's all yours, Nikki and Steve.
Nikki, we're talking job descriptions, and I think we both have our own different spins on something very important. But you've created a lot of great things. You teach this a lot. You espouse it, as do I. Rock and roll, rockin' mama. I'll fill in some great blanks,
Okay. And I promise I won't try to keep you guys too long. I'm going to try to make it really, really fast. The first thing that I'd like to point out is that all of this is such great information, but the gap or the part that I would like to fill tonight is just on how you're going to build the front desk team. Who are you going to look for? How are you going to look for them? What are the tasks that you're going to teach? And then how do you progressively grow them and scale them inside of your company so that they're doing all the jobs that, Derek and Andrew and Stephen and I have so beautifully explained to you guys. So that was all great. And now I'm going to try to come in and fill in about, now if you're ready to hire a front desk, how are you going to do that? Who are you going to look for? Okay. So the first part is I'm going to talk about, before we jump into this a little bit, I want to so I hope you guys have your pen and your paper. I know it's getting a little bit late, but if you guys could just lean in a little bit and share, I think this is going to be very important for you to start building your own front desk success. Okay. All right. So the first part is going to be your recruitment, and how do you recruit and who do you recruit and what kind of people are you recruiting? We can give you all of the suggestions all day long, but you're going to have to decide to represent your brand, what that person looks like. And so the question that I would have for you as homework tonight, and think about this tonight when you go to bed, or maybe tomorrow when you get up, is what does your dream front desk person look like, or your dream guest service team look like? We call our front desk a coordination team or a coordination center, because to me, it really is about coordination. There's so much coordination happening there. It's like the nucleus of the business, and then all of the other things happen outside of it. And so that nucleus has to have all of the very clear-cut paths to do exactly the tasks that are necessary. Anyone who knows me knows that I'm very specific about the exact task and the exact titles and the exact compensation level and my exact expectation, because I think that one of the big challenges, and other coaches, you guys agree with me, would you guys agree that most of the time it's the first barrier or the obstacle that we always come up against is the team will always say, well, I didn't know what you wanted from me, or I didn't know what you expected of me. And so the communication wasn't clear. And so if you get really clear first, before you launch into anything, I always say that there's homework to be done and work and project management. So if you create that project management of creating that beautiful dream coordination center or guest service center or sales center, or again, whatever you want to call it, that's going to be really important. So that the question to ask, in my opinion, is what does that dream coordination team look like? What is the dream role person? I mean, are they nice? Are they accommodating? Are they funny? Are they multitaskers? Do they have the ability to move fast, to be efficient? Or, what are those type of characteristics that you're looking for? Write that down and keep it simple, 3 to 5 characteristics or attributes that you really are looking for. And then when you advertise and you create all the advertisement and job posters and hiring posters around that, create language and branding around those attributes that attract them. You are fishing, basically, in the marketplace for key players of your front desk. That front desk team needs to have some key attributes already, like, and I'll run through a whole list of those in a moment, but think about what that looks like for you. What does that dream transaction look like for you? That would be another question. Like in a transaction between a front desk and a guest, what does that look like? If you're at the desk, Tracy Napotnick is wonderful at this. She teaches the team how to communicate with the guest by having certain scripts or having certain expectations or having certain behaviors. So really you're training behaviors. So think about all of those things that go into that as well. What does your dream coordinator do? Like, what are the tasks that would make your life easier? A lot of the times, a lot of people don't understand you do need a front desk as a business owner or a coordination center or a sales center, because you're bombarded with tasks. You have so much to do. So if you can maybe push off some of those tasks to other people, make a list of what those ideal tasks would be that you don't want to take care of anymore, that would be great for a task list for the front desk team. And so that team, that coordination team, they could handle, and again, I'll run through the whole list that could be taken off your plate as well, which would make your life much easier and then allow you to do more leadership tasks, more training, more bookkeeping, more marketing, more whatever you want to do. So as an owner, you're driving the bus. And so in the bus, you have behind you the people that are reporting to you, the people that are sitting in the back of the bus. They want more heat. They want to stop for a bathroom break. They want to change the music. They want to do this. Remember, you're the bus driver. You can't turn around and see what's going on. You keep your eyes on the road and you decide where the bus is going. And then from there, you decide and you decipher. So in a salon, you have the 4 teams, right? And so you have the leadership team, which is going to be growing. In the leadership team, you have 2 types of leaders. You have non-income producing leaders and income producing leaders. The non-income producing leaders typically come from the coordination center or the guest service center. When you train them the right way and you scale them the right way in their compensation and their task management and their skill sets, they're going to become more leaders for you on that side. The beauty of them is that they have time. They're not revenue producers. They're not income producing leaders behind the chair. Those people have to have a smaller task list, more brand representation, more training, more keeping an eye on things and managing that type of flow. So make sure that your front desk has that in mind, or your coordination center has that in mind. When you are recruiting, make sure for this type of position, make sure that you're doing background checks on them, because they are handling money transactions. So you are going to have to make sure that when you are recruiting from reliable sources, and then you interview them, in my opinion, at least 4 times. And during that interview process, you're asking them some very critical questions to make sure that they are understanding what your needs are and you understand where their backgrounds are. I think every business owner has experienced theft at some point, and I think we need to be very, very cautious about that. Do at least 3 to 4 job reference checks for these type of positions as well. It's very important. This is not a position to just be for 16-year-olds. 16-year-olds can be brilliant at it if they're trained by somebody else more skilled. And I'm not saying the age is the difference. I'm saying that someone that is in a more serious position, they're going to be with you long term. These 16-year-olds or 17-year-olds are just kind of coming in and out. Make sure you have an onboarding process. And I would recommend, and I'm going to tell you guys this at the end, an online training platform in your business for front desk. We have a 5-hour training process video that we've put on and loaded all of our videos for training that we've included for our front desk. And so it simplifies your training process and it makes it much more effective. And I'd recommend that onboarding begins before the actual first date of start. So meaning if you hire them June 1st and you want them to start June 15th, they're already onboarding for the 2 weeks beforehand with your online academy and or your online platform. All the videos, all the forms, they're memorizing policies, procedures, which we'll get into if there's time. But all of that is really important, that they're memorizing and doing the work. They're showing you a representation of what they are having to give. So here are some of the key parts that we feel that we want to make sure that we focus on in our online platform, training platform. And before I get into this page, I just want to run through this list with you guys. One of the most beautiful ways that we've seen success rates with the front desk team or the coordination team is that they are participate in all services. So they get to get services for free at all times in your business. Meaning if there's massage, they get massage whenever they want. If you have estheticians, they get facials whenever they want. You have microdermabrasion, they get microdermabrasion whenever they want. Hair highlights every week if they want. Blow dries, whatever they want. The coordination team or the guest service team literally gets to experience the services on a regular basis as often as possible. It makes their salesmanship of your services skyrocket. And I would also recommend that they don't pick a favorite stylist or an esthetician to go to, that the rule and the policy is that they experience all service providers in your business in order to be able to speak intelligently. And when they're selling these team members, they've already experienced it. You know, the front desk is going to do that anyway. Oh, I love Michelle. She's so good with my hair. I'll only let Michelle touch my hair. She's not allowed to do that. Her job or his job at the guest service center is to sell not only the team, but they're selling retail and they're selling the business as well. And so there's a lot of selling going on. And in that, they have to actually experience it. So let me go ahead and start running through this really quickly. And I'm going to come back and wrap this with my list of where I think you guys need to pull together for your front desk. First of all, you need to create the responsibility levels with the titles. Some of the titles we put at the bottom so you guys can see in the 4 levels at the bottom there. We'll run through that in a minute. You want to create your compensation tiering for these positions. It is critical, in my opinion, that you have scalability for compensation for these positions because you're not going to keep them long if you don't. Allocate a lot of funds for compensation for them, and I would tie a lot of things to performance. I'll run through some examples for you. Create cross-training expectations. Derek, I think you touched on that. I think we don't have to talk about that anymore. Create list of downtime activities, meaning when they are not busy at the desk, which in a busy salon, that'll never happen. But if you do have holes and gaps, what are you expecting of that coordination team? What should they be doing? Social media, cleaning, training, on watching their online academy, memorizing policies and procedures, giving guests a call to make sure that they're securing for future business, writing letters, handling marketing. I mean, again, all the tasks go inside of that, but what are the downtime that you expect? Have that written down, train it, and make sure that they're being held accountable to that. You want to create your business skill training list. So we just ran through, I'm not going to read all of these to you, but these are some of the skill training lists to include in your coordination team. You guys have touched on a lot of these already. So again, I don't think we need to do that. Let's jump down to the bottom of the page. It says 4 levels. I believe that in every team, so you have your front desk team, you have your leadership team or coordination team, guest service team, you have your assistant support team, and you have your service provider teams. The service provider teams can be specific. They can be spa personnel. They can be hair personnel. They can be whatever whichever team, but they're producing revenue. So in the front desk or coordination team or guest service team, there still needs to be tiers, just like there needs to be tiers on service providers, just like there needs to be tiers on assistants, just like there needs to be tiers on leadership. Every team has tiers because that's the only way you're going to extend longevity for your team participation, and you don't have high turnover for these teams. You don't want to spend 2 years training somebody, and then they're brilliant, and then they get scooped up somewhere else or they leave because they're feeling like there's no room for growth. So the entry levels are going to be the receptionist, the prepping. There's another position that we like a lot called the runner position. You can call it whatever you want, but these are the people that are they're the physical, manifestors of the coordination. They're the ones that are going back, tapping the guest or tapping a stylist, letting them know their clients are here, making sure someone gets their magazine, making sure coats are hung up. All of those guest service policies that you're going to put in.
Finding somebody to blow dry.
Right. They're the coordinators. They're the runners, right? So that would be receptionist or runner in my position, or in my opinion, or both. Then the mid-levels are going to be moving up to more coordination as soon as they start to learn that. You can call these salon coordinators. You can call them financial coordinators. You can call them guest service coordinators. You can call them whatever you want. Create a title. Having an official title is very important to somebody because, well, just to be compliant as an employer, having that is, again, extremely important. Then the third level is going to be that micromanagement level, the high leadership entry, front desk management, trainer, social media, marketing, communication, quality control, etc. These are people assigned with certain responsibilities, and they're getting paid for those responsibilities in addition to their base pay. So they are performing this, and they're not getting paid for those performances unless they're complete. So on the back end, as a business owner, an employer, you will have to create a measurement stick for what those measurements look like, those metrics look like. What is the metric for a front desk or coordinator team in order to grow and get promoted? Get creative, get innovative, and create that. And then you have that macro management level, which is that high level of leadership. This is going to be the business managers. These are going to be the financial responsibilities, the bookkeepers, the basic accountant managers, tracking, documenting, using Google Docs, or again, maybe an online app. inventory control, quality control, and conflict resolution if there's conflict between a guest and a stylist, or potentially maybe two stylists or two service providers or two assistants or assistant and stylist or whoever, whatever that is, they've been a bit more trained. So that's a year, 2, 3 years down the road as they've been trained on those levels. So those are your 4 levels. Each level will have a compensation pay level and also job titles, as well as specific written task lists that you expect them to do. One task list is going to be for the basic foundational pay, and then the second is going to be based on performance or team-based pay. That is in addition to what your level of normal expectation is, and then outside of that, additional responsibilities given to that team. And then now you have a bit of a machine going on, and so you just need to make sure that you're really clear. So let me run through this before I take too much more of your time. Here are some of the tasks that you can assign, or job titles that you can assign. First is going to be a basic accounting task or responsibility. This could be, you could call this person an accountant, because really they kind of are. You can give them additional accounting training. You can have QuickBooks train them. You can hire a CPA and have them coach and train them. Not only just you should be training them. Financial management, cash flow management, ATMs, if you have that, tippy control, all of those type of financial management tasks. Money transactions, they're in charge of keeping track of the desk, making sure the drawer, they report to you. They make sure all of that is being tracked and handled properly on a very regular basis. And they are managing it and documenting it as well. So there is no room for error. So they have to take that role very seriously. And those people are high level of trust. So you got to make sure that you trust these people to do it. The next task or job title would be inventory management. Again, any of these can be combined for one person to do multiple tasks, or you can create different tasks for certain people with a certain skill level. I think it would behoove you as business owners to make sure that you encourage the task that certain positions are, or certain people in certain positions are, that they have the skill set for that. If they're not operationally strong, you're not going to give them operational tasks. If they are more artistically strong, then you need to give them something more artistic, like communication with guests, marketing design, social media. These are very creative tasks, unlike the more operational stuff. So the next would be marketing, social media. Again, can be combined. Staff testing. This is something really big for front desk, meaning they're getting timed. Every time we promote someone in the business from tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, etc., or we hire someone in, they get tested. We're testing them not because we want to make them feel bad. We're testing them because we want to see how effective they are at their job at that point in order to have a market value in the compensation level. So very critical point. You got to make sure you test people out, and you got to design what those tests look like inside of your business. Data gathering. This is, again, I think we've beaten this one to death. Data gathering is very important. Their job, and teach them how to do this. I want you to gather data about all guests that call in and can't get in. So today, or for this month, your task is I want you to track how many people we turn away every single day. That could be a trackable moment or a trackable task, right? And so then that helps give you the data you need in order to make managerial decisions in your company that are going to be much more effective and more direct to the point. Need fulfillment. I think this is a very important role. I think maybe all of them need to be trained on this part. So what is the need fulfillment part of the guest service position or the coordination position? And what does that look like in your business? Reservations, who's in charge of that? Who's in charge of training that? How is that process done? What are we doing? How are we pre-booking? How are we scheduling? How are we booking tight, booking less? I mean, you guys spent a lot of time on that, and that's very, very important, but all of that is part of your reservations job title. Communication. This is a skill set you're going to have to teach. Greetings, dialogue, scripts, consultations, reports. Front desk and coordination runs reports. I don't run reports anymore. This team for me runs all the reports. And so as owners, you guys can start giving them this type of responsibility. Again, higher level, they're paid for it, but important to do. Quality challenges. Are they documenting this? What's the policy and procedure about how to handle that? Contract management. There's a lot of contracts that are happening in businesses these days. Bridal contracts, session work contracts, team contracts, compensation contracts. You guys should be using contracts very, very readily. And I think that this team can help coordinate the storage, the implementation, and the security level of these contracts. Again, I explained a little bit of the leadership so they can move into that. Training, we talked about how to put that onto online procedures, but we'll wrap at that, Stephen, with you and I at the end if you'd like.
Yep.
And how we can build a really effective one. You want to make sure that, let's again, quality control, I think, is going to be the last thing I'd like to touch on with you guys. Quality control measures, I think salons don't have a lot of. I think we need to work on that. That is going to be your redo policy. Do you have a strong redo policy? How often do you bend on the redo policy? What is your redo policy? And how does that impact the team and impact the salon's financial security? And guest service and guest experience. So how do you, and at the top level, philosophically, I would recommend that all of your policies have one thing in mind, and that is to make sure you secure long-term relationships for your guests and you convert them to VIP guests. All policies should do that. I know some of the policies have to be ugly, like cancellation policies, no-show policies, you have to take prepayment, et cetera, but it can be delivered in a way that can be quite savvy. And I think that if we can do that, we will be a much stronger business for it with stronger quality control measures. Cancellation policies, very important. No-show policies, design all of that, track it, make sure that you are delivering that and keeping consistent to it. And you guys can all design your own. We will share ours with you on print, so you guys we don't have to spend time on doing that. Take it, write your own, and customize that for you.
Nikki,
and the last thing, go ahead.
Oh, wait, last thing, go for it. I just want to add to some of the things that you're saying. I've been writing some points down, but if you got a last thing, then rock on, and I'll add right after.
Well, actually, technically two last things, but job scalability for front desk guys. I would make sure you have a significant level of growth and an expectation of when they should be growing and what measurements you're going to see it. And then how you're going to pay them at front desk, you're going to use a combination of multiple types of compensation. If you don't have a front desk yet and you are ready to hire, I would review and go back and run reports on your busiest time, your peak times. And then I would look for that schedule. If it's 20 or 30 hours a week, hire one person for those hours, have a little bit of coordination and support on those hours. And then as you continue to increase your revenue because you get to be busier, you will end up you'll end up at a much better place to hire the second person. And then you will continue to grow. No one goes out and hires 5 people to add to a coordination team. Guys, that's just not going to happen. But slowly you're going to do one at a time, and you're going to develop the system as you go. Everything we've talked about tonight isn't going to happen tomorrow. It's going to happen over time and a progression of organic work that you're going to just develop over time. But the most basic pay when someone enters at an entry-level receptionist / runner type of position is going to be hourly. That's wage, and that's required. Either anything under 40 hours is going to be paid out at minimum wage in your state or higher if you would prefer. We pay higher for front desk and coordination teams because we feel like it's a much higher level of skill that's needed there and a much higher level of expectation. And they don't get tips. You know, our front desk doesn't get tips. Our assistant team does. And so I feel like that's a little bit more fair. Now, once somebody moves up and shows you a little bit more promise and they have a little bit more tenacity in that job, then you can add a salary or change it and convert it to salary. You can do team-based pay. The way I like team-based pay for front desk is you would have one goal in mind for the front desk, perhaps monthly. And then let's say we're going to try to upsell 100 back bar treatments of Kerastase Physiodose this month. If that is what your goal is for that month, your front desk team or your coordination or your sales team gets a dialogue that you create. They sell it, you tell them how to do it, and you train them how to do it, and then you give them a parameter. By the end of this month, if your team, this team of 4 salon coordinators or 4 front desk coordinators, if this is, you hit the goal of 100 of them, you guys all get a $200 bonus. That's an example of a team-based pay for that team. And that really kind of helps drive certain service types in your business. Retail commission, this isn't obvious. I think that we can give now retail commission. I would consider not taking it away from the stylist. I would recommend that you let the stylist have the sale. However, and some coaches would disagree. It's totally fine. You do what you feel is best. But we like to pay the front desk as a small percentage. So 1% of total salon retail sales to the entire team if you guys meet the goal of $10,000 of retail sales. So they get the team-based pay on the retail commission, whereas the stylist would get the the other part. So it's a much bigger piece. 1% of 10,000 is a much bigger piece than a stylist of $400 of sales, right? So consider those kind of things as well. Performance bonuses for doing extraordinary work. And then benefits, I would definitely create a benefit package for this team. Well, for every one of your teams. And tomorrow I'm going to actually teach a Facebook Live for compensation and benefit packages and things like that on the Statements Project. But we can talk about that more in detail. You guys want me to come back, I'll teach a compensation class on that. But benefits can be an extraordinary amount of things. And then equity. Equity is something that Derek touched on a couple weeks ago, but it's something that I love, especially for people who become key players in your business and you need to lock them down in that role, in that position. And they become lost leaders basically, or they become leaders in your business. You're going to take a little bit of a loss because you're going to pay them a little extra and you're going to share a little profit with them or give them incentive for long-term growth and long-term profitability versus the instant bonus. Instant bonus is nice, but long-term equity and long-term growth can be better for those key players. And then I would do the other homework right now is to create strong policies and procedures. We have a program called the Zone Training Program where we have literally every policy and procedure you can imagine. Email Iva or I if you would like to ask more about that.
Do you know my email address? I'm just asking.
But policies and procedures, I think, would be a great bit of work that you could do right now. Right now, your policies and procedures have to be evolved. They have to be evolved, guys, right now. I would tell you if you evolve new policies and procedures for this time, for that first phase, like I explained last week, it would be really important to do. So take your original policy and procedures. If you don't have one, write some and then evolve it for this time. So that's kind of my idea of what a coordination team looks like. Stephen, go ahead.
Yeah, so yeah, put that up there so people can see your email address there, Iva. I love that. Can you guys stop sharing your screen for a moment? I'm gonna chat and then I'm gonna pull one thing and I'm gonna talk about it. Thank you. But first of all, in the comment and chat sections on Facebook and here on Zoom, let's give up the immense amount of love, gratitude, and respect for one Nikki Lee for what she just walked us through, because that was phenomenal, Nikki. And and literally did not see you take a breath or grab any water as you did that. So I'm going to challenge you to go swim an Olympic-sized pool underwater. You will probably be the champion of that. You are amazing when you get fired up. I love.
I asked her earlier today how much caffeine she's had.
I can do that without caffeine.
And sugar. I saw the Diet Cokes going down, I really, really did see that.
Very little caffeine. That's the scary part.
Yes, there is sugar in red wine too. Anyways, it's just a different type. I want to add some.
I hope that helped.
I want to add some points to some of the things that you said. I'm going to attempt to go at this as clear as I can and with brevity. I know it's 7 o'clock West Coast time for me, but it's closing in on 10 o'clock at night for you guys. And I can see how many people have stayed on with us. And I just have to acknowledge that we're giving the ratings the run for their money. NBC, ABC, CNN, they ain't got nothing on us. We're winning the ratings war over here at Beauty Business Reset. At any rate, let me put some ontology into what we just heard. What is ontology? Again, it goes back to the top. The study of beingness. It's the study of energy. It's the study of attitude, mindset, and approach. Information is only good when it's added into the right perspective, the right approach to it. And any information is not going to count for a lick unless everybody's dialed into the values of the organization, believes in what we're striving for, and is striving as a group, as a part of the group, and individually to better themselves, and believe that your salon is the way that they can do that. So this all comes back to your core values. It all comes back to how you operate. As a coach, I've always said this to people I've coached and in any trainings I've done. You show me a disconnect anywhere in your organization, and the first place I'm going to want to look at, is there a disconnect from a values-based standpoint? And if we get that covered, then we have to look at, is there a disconnect from a perceptual and thinking point of view? And once we've got those covered, then we're just training people on the way that we expect them to operate. And then we coach them behaviorally. And that's it. We don't have to coach based on thinking. We don't have to coach based on values. When you're thinking about adopting and implementing all of these systems, while it is inspiring, just like you can come to see myself at a live show, and Nikki and Iva, and we share training rooms at a lot of big events throughout the years, and look forward to doing that again. You can get a ton of information from us, but it's not going to matter if you don't make the choice yourself. Roll the sleeves up and to get messy and to dig in to not only implementing systems, but what that means is implementing the psychology, going into the thinking of how people are already relating to things, because we are creatures of habit and we get comfortable.
Right, Stephen.
So all of these conversations must be brought to the conscious surface. Awareness is critical. How does that happen best? I go back to what we talked about last Wednesday when I was the guest here. You as an owner or a leader or manager must carve out the time to train and develop your team. You must carve out the time where you're not working behind the chair in a treatment room, where you are thinking and analyzing and reflecting and guiding and coaching. If you are too busy being busy, if you have already opened and you find yourself in that busy place, you still have the time to redirect where you're spending the time, because your business needs your attention more than ever with all these new guidelines and things going on, and potentially new people that you're hiring, with how you want to beef up these areas about how you operate, because it's so critical to support people. You have to do that. You have to give your business the time. You also have to give your business the time because your business is made up of people, and people need your attention. So free up your space so you can dig in to these types of systems, and then get your team involved in them. So if you take any of the front desk systems that Derek is giving you, that I'm giving you, that Nikki is giving you, take those systems and put them all on the table, the proverbial table, in a Zoom meeting, and assign your team members to head up different areas that they're going to attack, so that they can beef up a certain area. So give 2 of your service providers the opportunity to work on this area. Give your guest service team the opportunity to work on that area. Give a few other service providers the opportunity to work on that area. Get everybody involved. The more involved everybody is, the more impactful the implementation phase becomes. I wrote a book called Interdependent Leadership that is all about this. Systems integration happens when people are involved, everyone. You've got to get everybody in there. Number 3, when it comes to interviewing, and Nikki touched on this, and he talked about it, really boils down to the questions that you ask in that recruiting process. And a good friend of mine, Patty Mead, is on here. She owns Techniques. A lot of you know Patty. I've had the honor of coaching her for 4 years, and she's had some fun journeys in filling this particular position throughout her years, and we've had a lot of meaningful exchanges, as I'm sure she probably attests to. But I'll tell you this, you guys, the questions must be 2-tiered, subjective and objective. What's the difference? Objective questions specifically relate to the tasks that the person is going to be required to fulfill in the role. So asking questions to find out their level of experience in the duties and tasks and steps that you are going to expect out of them is critical. We're pretty good on that side of the coin. A lot of times we don't ask those subjective questions. The subjective side has everything to do with interpersonal skills, who they are as a person, their attitude, their mindset, their approach, their behavior. Behavioral-based questions are critical. I developed a ton of those things because being able to understand how somebody thinks and how they react in certain situations is mission critical. I could be this systematic rock star, but have 0 personality, and I'm not connecting with any of the service providers, and I'm struggling to connect with the clients. So am I really in the right role? Probably not. So at the outset, you know, where you make the best hiring decisions is right in the questions you ask, and get the team involved in asking those questions. And if you are going to get the team involved, be sure to consciously set them up that it's not their job to be critical of the applicant. It's their job to find 3 things they like about the applicant. And then, is there a red flag that needs to be discussed? Because when we get the team thinking about positive things to look for, then they're approaching that human who's looking for a job and probably not making money and who's nervous as hell and palms are sweating and probably can't even remember what the heck they just said in the interview 5 minutes ago. It gives them a little bit more space to be relaxed and comfortable, because everybody on the team who's involved in this process is engaging it in a human and humble way, realizing that I'm here to serve that person, even if we end up not hiring them. So what do I appreciate and like about this person? Let me think about that first. Then let me think about red flags that we can talk about. The last thing I'll say about recruiting for this position is this. You might not hire each person, and you shouldn't. Be rigorous. I totally agree with multiple interviews. I have a 5-stage process. Nikki has a 4-stage process. Those stages don't have to be separate based on the size of your business, by the way. If it's you and 3 other people, you can combine, some of the steps into one interview process. You can elongate it. You can make the technical interview, for example, go right in with the shadowing. Right? And what's a technical interview for a front desk person? Have them come in and shadow, give them a script, have them actually take care of something, greet a guest, do a concierge type activity. Those things can happen, right? If you spend the time working on it. But get the team involved and remember who you're dealing with, and be mindful and humble about it. I think that's critical. It takes time to learn. It takes time to learn. And if you think about everything that Nikki went through, and all the systems I have and that Derek has, it takes time to get into that information. When I asked Derek earlier, how long does it take to go through this? Shannon Thomas was on earlier, and she said a couple of years. And that's no joke. So let me share a quick story with you that I found to be powerful in my own life. I worked at the time for one of the largest business coaching and training companies in the industry, Salon Training International, and Andrew remembers them. And at the time, we were very large company. We had a big team of trainers. That company went on to be bought by Milady, and I worked with them for 8 years. But back when we were growing in the STI days, I was brought into a room with a fellow coach and trainer, and we were both, to begin the calendar year 2006, we were both offered the opportunity, her to be the director of consulting, me to be the director of training. And we were offered a really nice salary, benefits, the whole 9 yards. And in that conversation, our leaders did something that I found to be one of the wisest things they've ever done, that I espouse. And it set me up as a person being promoted in a way that was very powerful. And we should think this way and do this for anybody that's moving into any new role, or anybody that's taking on new steps and measures like these health and safety guidelines we all have to implement. We should not expect perfection out of anyone, and we should let them know that it's okay to make mistakes, because that's real, that's human. We all personally, if we give a damn and we care at a high level, we're going to put enough pressure on ourselves to want to do the best, bring our best foot forward, do the best that we can in that role. We're going to be putting all kinds of pressure on ourselves to do that naturally. So as leaders and as team members, we must create an environment where we let people know, hey, we're not expecting perfection. It might take 6 months for you to learn this role. It might take a year. It might take 2 years. That's what I was told. Steve, we are promoting you to the director of training, not because you know how to do it. You don't know anything about it. We're creating the role. We're promoting you based on the type of coach you have been and the type of trainer you are out on the road, how you prepare for trainings, how you represent the brand nationally when you're in front of the room, the level of ownership that you take in the whole process. You have earned the right to have the role. It doesn't mean you know how to do it. So you're the only one that's going to put pressure on yourselves. We are not here to put pressure on you, Steve. We expect you to make mistakes, and we see those mistakes as lessons, and we invite you to look to learn them. What we do expect out of you, Steve, is 110% of your effort, of your passion, and of your ingenuity. If you give us that and you make mistakes along the way, we'll figure it out together, and you will create one heck of a training organization. And I'll never forget being given that green light to go. I'll never forget that conversation. It has made me into the person I am today, that I had somebody who saw that I had potential and who was willing to give it to me. And we as leaders now more than ever, as we bring our team back, guest service providers, assistants, everybody in every role, we need to remind people of who they are and what they're capable of, and that it's okay to mess it up. It's okay to make those mistakes. And we have all the systems in the world, but you have to put you into it. And we believe in you, which is why we're asking you to do it. It must start with that conversation. If you have that context, then everything that Nikki just walked through and everything that Derek just walked through and something I'm about to show you right now is going to have so much more relevance. It starts with context. Context is king. We go back to beingness. I wanted to make sure I brought that back around for my boy, Andrew. Am I hitting that nail, brother?
You brought it. You brought it, dude.
Good, good, good.
Empower greatness, especially in your guest services team.
Amen. Amen. So I'm going to share this with you guys. In my interdependent leadership book, I have a bunch of job descriptions. You're seeing one of them here, the front desk associate, that guest first responder. Now, there's a different wrinkle that I have taken to what I believe a job description should look like. So everybody's going to get access to this template. It is a template. It is a starting point. There's a lot more responsibilities on here than some of the things you see, but I'm giving it to you to wet your whistle. Take this and take all of the systems that Nikki has and create something comprehensive. But what I really want you to walk away with is the setup of this. Most position descriptions and job descriptions that I've seen throughout the day have what you see here, specific responsibilities. What they don't have enough of is what's at the top, position overview, and what's at the bottom, skills, time, and values. So let me talk about those things. I'm not going to get into tasks. I think we've already covered a lot of that. But the overview to me is one of the most critical aspects of any good job description, because the overview is really what the position is, who you're going to be. Now, in my book with all these job descriptions, and I have one for every position that you can think of, but what you're reading here is what I came up with to wet your whistle. So when you grab this out of the templates library, everyone, my recommendation to you is to take that. What you have to do, if I'm coaching you, then I'm not going to see what I wrote in your position description for your guest service team. You're going to take this and use it to inspire you to write your own. But the position overview has to be written by each person in their position. Give them something to read that shows them your expectation of them, your vision for the role, but then they have to write in their own words who they see themselves to be in their role. Because when they write that out, they are A, going to own it more, B, be so much more inspired, and C, they're also going to have a place to go back to. And you're going to have a standard and a vision to go back to when they fall short, when they stumble, when they fail, when they make a mistake. You get to bring them back to their overview of who they are for the company and what they wrote. It's absolutely vital. The position is something that you've created and systematized, but each of us have to put ourselves into it. So what you can see in that opening paragraph there is an example of an overview for that role. You can write it out and create it however you want it to be in your business, and then give each person in the role the chance to write their own. And I would recommend that you don't tweak the substance of what they write. When you help them edit and finalize it, you tweak it to make sure that when they read it, they are moved by it. When they read it, they are inspired by it. Now, the other piece that I've seen throughout my days coaching is this bottom piece, and that's skills, time, and value. And this goes for not only the guest service the guest service position, but also for your service providers, assistants, any management position and leadership role in the business, including yours. And by the way, if you are going to implement a position description for any role in your business, we're talking about our upfront desk team tonight, and you don't have one for yourselves, then you better think again and start working on yours. Because to me and this coach, it's out of integrity to ask anybody to follow a position description if you don't have one created for yourself that is very specifically clear about who you are, what you're there to do, and what you need to be working on to improve. It's just out of integrity. And a lot of times it's one of those hidden things that's back here and we didn't even realize we needed to work on. You know, so you have to focus on yours and get really clear about yours first before you create one of these. With that being said, and now that I put that important level of work and self-introspection into your life, let me talk about skills, time, and values and the importance of this. What do I mean by this? What I have found in my years of coaching salons and spas is that when we hire people, we have a list of tasks. Or when we promote somebody into a role, we have the things we want them to do. But what we don't have in place is what are the skills that you must be working on. Now, Nikki touched on those things. You can see here, I've got really simple ones: computer, communication, client relations. So what I do as a coach and what I recommend that you do with your team is you have them rate themselves. First of all, come up with what are all the skills that we need to have in place in order to really have that person grow into their role, because those skills are what they're going to have to go learn and really master. So knowing the computer and learning the software is one of the skills they have to master. Then work with the team on what are some of those pitfalls and issues they've seen out of the guest service position that they would recommend get improved upon. Ask your current guest service provider or your guest service team up front what they would want to add. And then begin to look at what the training must be like in order for that person in that role to improve upon that skill set. The same goes with client relation skills and communication skills. Where should they be spending their time? This is another question that you must be asking. What skills should that person be learning in their role, and where should they be spending their time? Customer first focus. What does that mean? That means that when they clock in, they are going up front, and they are up front as a first responder, and they are there to serve. So what needs to happen to help whoever is up front to make sure that things are happening in a smooth way to serve the guests? Anything else that's secondary, doing inventory, helping with supply runs, helping with cleaning and organizational aspects of the job, while those things are important and you can delegate to people that are savvy in that position, they must not think that those are the most important aspects of their role. They must always remember that I am in a role that no matter what, my first focus always should be spending time up front, serving the guests, serving the team. That's where I should be spending my time. And then finally, a big piece that I see is missing in training and development, or in hiring people and onboarding them or promoting somebody, is ensuring that they get what they should be valuing in their role. So you should be looking for somebody who has a tremendous amount of value, passion, and love for doing the work of being somebody up front in that position serving guests, and who also values being responsible for the success of the total business. So this again comes back to interviewing. When you're interviewing and looking for somebody, you want to ask questions about former roles and positions they've had to see if they value only what they're doing and what they did, or if they're valuing what we did and that they contributed to a greater collective. If you get those types of answers, you're finding the right type of person for that role. And then finally, they value, I can't read that, they value the client, they value client interactions, they value client relationships, and that they have visible integrity. They are the standard for who you are and how you operate. So what skills must I be learning in the role? Where should I be spending my time, and what should I be valuing? As a leader, adding these 3 questions into your job descriptions, writing them out and adding those bullets, and having meaningful conversations with the person that you're putting into this role will support them get into those subjective things that help them grow in confidence and help them live into all of the tasks and all of the duties, and inspire them to see that list of tasks and duties as not just information or a mundane thing that might be overwhelming, but as something that they definitely can take a bite out of and chew on powerfully. So as you're taking on this, I want to remind everybody, rewind this, listen to this again, and rewind towards the end here when I was walking through this, so you have the right context for skills, time, and values. In the book, I walk through it extensively so you can have more understanding of it, but right here I taught it, so please listen back so that you can take this template and you can make it yours for that position. It's just that important, everyone. Get people working on the skills, clear about where they're spending time, and really passionately fired up about what they should be valuing in that role. When you get people clear about what they should be valuing, you increase retention. You increase the time by which they're going to stay with you. And I just can't speak to how important that is. So I hope that was valuable. I haven't looked at any points while I was walking through this. If you have any questions about implementing this, please email me directly, info@stephengomez.net. Iva, Derek, Andrew, James, what do you want to add to what we just walked through here?
Stephen, I believe you have a values-based way of interviewing, a sheet that gives interviewing questions that are based upon some of the values, not just the technical thing. And,
correct.
And I think that's a super duper important thing for people to get a copy of and reset their interviewing skills if you're not already doing it.
Awesome. Thank you.
James, you got any questions coming in from Facebook or the group?
Just lots of love in the group, Steve. A lot of comments as you were going through. Yes, yes, yes. Iva's email was asked for a few more times, so I made sure I showed my tattoo of it. Wait, sidebar. You know what was asked in the first 30 seconds of the thing this today, right? Iva, just let you know. Oh yeah, I'll show you. No, everything's good though. Everybody loved it.
Love hearing that.
So guys, everybody that was on tonight, kudos. I mean, God, what a bunch of information that was put out there for everybody. Steve, Iva, Nikki, Andrew, James. It was just freaking awesome, to be honest with you. And we could have went on for a whole day, I think, right? And we'll have to make this on into a day show, right? But we will be providing all this information to everybody, all these sheets and things. Well, welcome back, Nikki.
I was cracking up. So, I didn't want to crack up on screen.
So again, just killed it, guys. Thank you for hanging in here as a participant tonight. We still have quite a bit of people on here. Steve, Nikki, you want to just tell us how we're going to share here? I guess I'm going to put something out to everybody in an email. Is that how you would like me to do it? Or
yeah, I guess. I mean,
happy to do that. So whatever we have an interview questions list as well. So we will throw it into the pot, and you guys can have all the questions and the interview processes that you need.
Derek, I'll email you a lot of stuff, and just so you know who it's coming from. Which do you need my email?
I think I have your email, Iva. Steve, so my thought is we'll put this together in a whole packet, and I'll blast it out to everybody in the group that watched tonight. We'll also post it in the Salon Owners Mastermind group. I can't post it to YouTube. We will post obviously a replay of this, and then I'll put a link in there where they can all follow back to get everybody's courses separately and combined. This was a lot of information.
Great job, guys. You guys all were phenomenal. So good.
Amen to that. Amen to that. And, I just want to say thank you to the BDR team. Thank you to Derek and Andrew and James for, seeing an immediate need for this conversation. And literally from Wednesday to now, all of us here prepared to deliver this for you tonight, because with us reopening, we couldn't wait to not have this conversation. We had to get to this because it's so urgent. And getting this part of your business buttoned up as we are opened or reopening is absolutely vital to continuity and customer service and to the expression of the values that we all espouse and believe in our businesses. And, I think I'll just end myself by saying, to answer your question, Derek, I emailed a lot of the templates. I'm going to send 2 more over, and then you guys put it up how you want. But just to remind all of us listening here that how we come back from this is so important. It speaks to our values. It speaks to our credibility as an industry. And we must come back stronger than we ever have. This is our moment as an industry to shine. It really, really is. So follow all the standards. Even if in your state there's a standard that maybe your state hasn't said is mandatory but optional, but you feel in your value system it's mandatory, then you make it mandatory. Do that. Hold firm to your belief system and fight for that, because people are going to follow that. Your team is, and your guests are, and more of them will keep coming back. Obviously all of us on here and all the guests that come on, we're all here to answer questions and help. So if there's anything you guys need, please let us know. Thanks as always, Derek, and the BBR team for having me on. And I love always co-facilitating with Nikki and Iva, 2 dear friends. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Stephen. To piggyback on that really quickly, I posted about to try to get. This is Sally. Can I get Iva's email?
No.
We love you guys. We really love you guys. Listen, I have just been thinking this through, and I think we need to have a unified voice about the forgiveness on the PPP loans. So I put together a blog, basically, that I'm going to share throughout Salon Owner Mastermind. It's very in-depth. It touches all the key issues of forgiveness and some of the challenges our industry is having with it. And I proposed solutions asked by a bunch of different salon owners. I really need you guys to share this, okay? So we need to share this with as many people as we can to get a bigger voice going. Write your own if you'd like, but I took it upon myself to write it so you guys wouldn't have to write it. Please read it. It's going to take you about 8 hours to read it, but
it's 5 pages.
It's long. But the point is that there was a lot of key points of forgiveness we need to address. But we need to have a voice that states very clearly what the hell we need and what we want from these forgiveness things. And while they're considering all these changes in their guidelines, they need to hear us. They need to change. More about Iva's email. They need to change guidelines that help us. We are part of the personal care industry, which is, and you guys have heard me say this, which was utterly crippled. And so I don't know if there's another industry that has been as crippled. Obviously lots of industries have been impacted, but we need to have a strong voice. So I want you guys, I asked a lot of questions to a lot of people. I pulled together all information and I wrote out these ideas with the proposed solutions. I'm going to share it with the SBA, with my legislators, with whomever the hell will take it and read it, to be honest with you. So if you guys can do that as well, I'm going to share it. I've spent 2 days writing it and editing it, but we're going to edit one more time tonight. And then we are going to share it in the morning. And I'm hoping you guys can just all stay on and share that with everybody and read it through. If there's any key points that you need me to change about it before we start sharing it, I will do so. Okay.
And I will, all kidding aside, I was just going to say, all kidding aside, I will be happy to email it to someone if they want it as an attachment to send to someone.
Iva, did you see that Sally and Nesty dreams about your email all night? That was awesome.
You were cracking up.
Sally, honey, there's better things to dream about than my email address.
And I saw somebody earlier add that, having a microphone to alert staff of when their next appointment is a great idea. If that's going to be the case, then I think everybody needs to go to James Alba's host school, because what a voice that guy has. Imagine going into his salon and hearing that voice call out, Nikki Lee, your next guest.
Paging Iva.
There it is. That's the voice right there.
Gotta learn to sing karaoke on that bad boy, though. Break up the day.
You need a really good microphone too, Steve. You need one of these guys.
Yes.
Exactly. I want one of those old-fashioned old radio microphones.
And Bella, the next time you come, don't run out of wine. At least have a couple of bottles at the ready. That's unacceptable here at these nighttime sessions. Thanks, everybody. Much
Guys,
love to you all.
Thanks
Bye,
for
everyone.
Sean. Remember, be proactive. Don't be reactive.
Yes.
And we will see you tomorrow night again for Philip and Mary Wilson.
Woo!
We're going to be on. And
Yay.
exciting. So everybody enjoy their evening tonight and get your bottles of wine ready for tomorrow night.
Who's
Have
on
a great
Friday
evening,
night?
everybody.
Derek, who's on Friday night?
Nick French.
Andrew?
Oh, Nick French. Okay,
Nikki.
Well, there you go.
excellent.
Week of friends and love. Love it.
Bye, guys.
Exactly.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night, everybody.
Hate you, James.
Good night, guys.
Hate you. Bye.